Get into it. Sold Not For Sale podcast. Coach Colin here. We got Joe Rogan uncovering one of the reasons, and I say one of the reasons because I'm going to show you some more reasons that Mark Cuban absolutely hates Trump. I did not realize Mark Cuban has this origin story that goes back even further than Rosie O'Donnell's villain origin story when it comes to Donald Trump. Very interesting stuff. Joe Rogan's going to touch on that. And then we're just going to have, I just got a bunch of clips of Mark Cuban just saying the most unhinged, ridiculous things. It's like he's lost himself when it comes to Kamala Harris. I know you guys know what I'm talking about. He's become this unhinged liberal. It's very much like Keith Olbermann. It's very much like Rosie O'Donnell. It's very sad to see. But again, there is a reason for it. And then we're going to end it off with how he used to think about Donald Trump and what made him change his heart. What made him have a change of heart? Let's get into it.
He sent Mark Cuban a letter when Mark Cuban's television show failed in like 2004 or whatever the it was. And someone posted it on Instagram today. See if you can find it, Jamie. But it's so petty. It's so petty, and the fact that he signed it and sent it to him, took time out of his day to type or have someone draft a letter. Yeah. Probably didn't type it himself. Have someone draft the letter and send it to Mark Cuban in the mail.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it takes that kind of a person to literally make their way through the system. This the only way you get through all these attacks, and we've seen the full force of it. It's like we've seen all the orcs that were hiding in the forest. They all came out.
The level of hell that those people go through.
This is the letter. This is from 2004. Mr. Mark Cuban. Dear Mark, I'm truly sorry to hear that your show has been canceled for lack of ratings. When I initially called you to congratulate you on the benefactor, little did you or I realize how disastrous and embarrassing it would turn out for you. If you ever decide to do another show, please call me and I'll be happy to lend a helping hand. With best wishes, Donald Trump.
What a savage.
What a crazy backhanded. Why? I don't understand. I mean, what beef? They must have some kind of beef.
They've had a long beef.
What is the beef about? The guy's hilarious. That is hilarious. It's hilarious that he takes time out of his day.
Yeah.
Not just like say, good, that guy. That show got canceled. Takes time out of his day.
Yeah.
To write like a conciliatory. I'm sorry. Sorry this happened to you, man.
Yeah.
You loser. Like literally writes it in there. The whole thing is wild. Because
but what's hard is people use those things to distract us and to divide us. And like even with my neighbor, I know we agree on 80% of the things. It's like, hey, I'm not against or for anyone. Like I'm not against Kamala. I'm not against Trump. I'm for team humanity. I am too. Can we work together to solve the problem? And whoever wins, whether Trump or Kamala, I hope that we can continue the momentum in the dialogue. And I hope that, we can truly have an open conversation that gains traction. And what I love about it being public is it's forever memorialized in public record.
I think
there's no hiding it.
Yes.
So that guy's very interesting, who Joe Rogan's interviewing. He falls in line with RFK. He's all about what's in the food. The standard American diet needs to change. We really need to re-examine the way general practitioners handle people when they come in instead of just giving them things, like, check on their sleep, things of that nature. The only problem is that he kind of has this thing where it's like, I don't care who wins as long as they're willing to talk about this. And you have to realize, and I'm not just saying this, like, oh, Trump's better with this. It's like there's a whole host of problems that come with Kamala Harris, and she's not going to listen to you because RFK already wanted to do this, and he's a Kennedy, and she wouldn't even take a meeting with him. So he has to think about that part. He's very not political. He doesn't want to get into that. He doesn't want to upset anybody because he just wants his agenda filled, and it's a very good agenda, but interesting episode. Definitely check it out. His name's Brigham. Pretty sure. Brigham is how you spell his name. It's like Brigham. I think that's Brigham. Solid name. But let's check out why else Mark Cuban does not like Donald Trump. Let me show you that letter just close up. I know you guys couldn't see it very close up. Donald Trump took the time He took the time, sent it in the mail. Oh, good Lord. That's amazing. That right there, Mark Cuban crumpled that up. He was like, and that was the first inkling, one of the first inklings of Trump derangement syndrome. It started setting in. He actually might be patient zero. I always thought it was Rosie O'Donnell. It might be Mark Cuban who is patient zero of the Trump derangement syndrome. Now, let's check out another reason why Mark Cuban actually hates Trump. Check this out.
I'll tell you my quick Donald Trump story. The first time I met him, our company had just gone public, and biggest IPO in history of the stock market. And I got invited to a Super Bowl party at his Mar-a-Lago estate, beautiful place. And so we're down by the pool hanging out, and there's this terrace, whatever, all these people are eating. And here comes Donald, and that's back when I was single. I thought there would be all these hot women, but anyways, there was Donald. And so he comes around and he's introducing himself to people and walks up and said, "Hi, I'm Donald Trump." Doesn't even listen for our names and anything. And he goes, "You know what? Someday you'll be able to sit up there with the rich people." And walks off.
Oh, my.
I'm like,
There it is again. That Trump derangement syndrome started setting in, and we all know what it turned into. It turned into videos like this. This is him saying 5 absolutely ridiculous things about Donald Trump. And the top thing, listen till the end, because you have to hear the top thing that he says about Donald Trump. Listen to this.
of that, meaning the mainstream media is not who you think it is. The mainstream media truly leans right. Maybe. When you're second in command, you do what your boss tells you to do. He delegates authority to you.
But the border was supposed to be her.
Yeah, but it's still the same thing. It's his policies. What he said to her was, you go down and you use diplomacy to try to improve, to try to reduce the flow, the migration of people across the border, right? And when they finally came around, and it took too long, I agree, but when they finally got there, now look at the results. It didn't take a wall, but yet the crossing numbers are where Trump's were when pre-pandemic, at the same number. So it worked. So what she did actually worked.
We can look at exactly what happened. He's already been president. And we can look at what happened when she was vice president. And it's not good, the comparison.
Being the president, Joe, as you know, is different than being vice president. It's not close, right?
So she can take credit for the good things that happened with Biden, but she didn't have anything to do with the bad
Donald
things.
Trump
In the past, there have been Democrats that have voted not to certify.
Yeah, that's fine.
Many
right?
times.
That's fine. But
Previous elections.
none of them called their vice president a and said, don't certify the election. Donald Trump, being the socialist that he is, had to beat Bernie. So Donald Trump went out and recommended that interest rate caps be set to 10%. The fact that he's even suggesting price controls and price caps is socialism 101.
Donald Trump's a socialist. Hey, remember, Mark Cuban. He said Donald Trump is a socialist. And right there, you can't take anything he says seriously anymore. That, ladies and gentlemen, is when the Trump derangement sets in. There's a certain part where it sets in where you're mad and you're raging, and then there's a certain part where it just starts degrading your brain, and now you're just saying things that don't make any sense. And you're suggesting that Donald Trump is as much of a socialist as Bernie Sanders. Hey, go to bed. Go to bed, bud. Okay? That's all I got to say about that. But it gets worse. It gets worse. He's not just saying things like that on news shows, keeping himself composed. Oh, no. Oh, he has a microphone in his hand. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. He's doing a rap with Stephen Colbert. He has his hands in the air, guys. He has his hands in the air. He has his mouth gaping open. What's going on? Hey, you're a billionaire. Think about all the things that you would do if you were a billionaire. If you grew up poor like me, that's what we do. We think about what we're going to do when we have money. We think of what we're going to do when we have $30, when we have $3,000, when we have billions of dollars. We think about that. Think about all the things you would do. Is this on the list? I would become a liberal unhinged person and I'd make terrible raps with Stephen Colbert. That's what I would do. National TV. I'd make a rap that didn't even rhyme remotely. That's what I would do. I'd do it with Stephen Colbert, and I would have a paid crowd in front of me to scream and cheer as I did it, and I'd throw my hands in the air and leave my mouth gaping open. Wow. I'm telling you, the late stages of TDS are very, very sad. They're very sad. We can laugh a little bit, but it's not funny, okay? This is also him on one of his latest podcast appearances. It's a podcast that I love, the All In podcast. It has a good mix of people who are for Trump, against Trump, and they just have great conversations. Now you're seeing these red squares, right? Okay? You guys all see the red squares all around, right? You're seeing this? All these red squares are pictures of Mark Cuban meeting celebrities and trophies. Okay? Things that he would classify as narcissistic. Now listen to what he says. I'm telling you, TDS, it makes you unaware of your surroundings. Listen to this.
And I'm like, this is cool, of course. And, he wants to talk to me about business. And I'm like, you know what, Donald, I'll help you all I can. He's getting DonaldTrump.com and he wants to sell tchotchkes and merchandise. I guess some things never change. And so, so I'm in there trying to tell him about what you can and can't sell online and what works. And that was all fine and good. Met Ivanka. It was all really cool. But the one thing that left with me, if you've ever been or seen pictures of his office, every inch of his office is covered with pictures of him. Every single inch of the office.
What's him like meeting celebrities, right? Stuff like that.
Yeah. Or, whatever covers he was on and just whatever, right? And I just remember walking through there and afterwards, it was a nice meeting and we had some follow-up calls and everything, but it never went anywhere in terms of the online stuff. But I just remember thinking to myself, if I ever become, visible or famous, to that level, don't let me get so caught up in just having pictures of myself. And, I'd had conversations with my buddies about.
Those buddies are not his buddies because, hey, it happened. It happened. Hey, bro, I don't know if you realize you got to call up those buddies and revoke that friendship you guys got going on because it happened. That's your office, man. And every inch has pictures and trophies. First off, the trophies. It's for sure the NBA team. They're not even trophies that he really should even have in his office. I guess, you own the team, whatever. But also the pictures, You're just doing the same thing. He doesn't even realize he's doing the same thing that he's criticizing Trump about it's amazing, but also sad. But again, this is for awareness purposes, okay? This is what TDS does. This is very, very sad. Because you know what happens next when people have TDS? Pretty soon, he's going to be wearing those Rosie O'Donnell glasses. He's going to get that Keith Olbermann, Rosie O'Donnell haircut. Hair going to go gray. It's going to be sad. It's going to be real sad. Okay? I'm just saying. Now, this is a video where I guess I'll play this one. It's 3 minutes, but again, just the TDS setting in. But David Sachs does not let this stuff slide. So David Sachs actually goes at Mark Cuban quite a bit, and they're having a debate about Trump. And David Sachs pretty much owns Mark Cuban in this clip. Check this out.
Think about the 4 years that he was president. In hindsight, what would you say was done well? What would you say was done poorly? Just those two things.
I think the way he dealt with the zeitgeist isn't the right word, just the vibe of the country was really, really, really bad. I think the hate that he conveyed, I think the fact that what he tweeted negatively, so companies didn't know what was coming next. He tweeted negatively about me. He tweeted negatively about other people. I thought that was a real bad thing. When the BLM protests happened and turned into riots, when they went into Minnesota, he was like, when the looting starts, the shooting starts. Who the says that as a president? And so we had more people die during riots during his term than Biden by a long shot. And I think he misrepresented where he stood in terms of being anti-war. If you go back to 2019 and look at the war in Yemen, there were hundreds, at least 100,000 people plus died. And there was a bipartisan resolution to say, we're not selling any more to the Saudis. We're not selling any more weapons to the Saudis. And a bipartisan resolution, including Mark Meadows and Rand Paul and others, said, passed it, and it went to his desk. And he said, we're still going to sell these munitions and these weapons to Saudi Arabia, even though these people continue to die. So when we talk about it's not all that much different than Ukraine. In some respects, only Saudi Arabia got the Glengarry leads and Ukraine got our old stuff, and we replaced it. And so when he comes out now and says, look, I'm against all wars. There were no wars. That's bullshit, right? The mainstream media.
Hold on.
And I know,
well, okay. So there's two things there. So just on the 2020 riots, I don't know how you blame Trump for the BLM riots of summer of 2020.
I didn't blame him for the riots. What I said was how he dealt with it.
Okay, I get you don't like the mean tweets. I totally get
mean tweets. No, don't diminish it, David. Don't diminish it as just mean tweets. People pay attention to what happens. And when you have people whose lives are at stake.
I think it's far worse to actually have riots going on in the streets. That's what needed to be controlled.
How many people
he wanted to send in the National Guard to Minnesota. It was actually Waltz who rejected the National Guard.
He had no problem.
And there were plenty of ties between Democratic activists and the BLM organizers of those riots. Time Magazine did a whole story on that.
I'm not saying he's at fault that the riots happened.
But I can't believe that you're using the riots throughout the summer of 2020 as an argument against Trump when it was the left.
No, I think what he's saying is the leadership that he shows is of low moral character.
Did he do anything right, Mark?
Well, I'm not done with the wrong stuff.
Okay.
But wait, there's more, right?
Okay. Yeah. Let's go back to the foreign policy for a second. Trump is correct that he did not start any new wars during his presidency. You agree with that, right?
That no new wars started, or he didn't start any?
He didn't start any. He was like the first president in 20 years not to start a new war.
Well, he inherited some for sure. And
he inherited Syria and Afghanistan, and he wanted to get out, and the generals didn't let him.
And there wasn't really a war that happened in Turkey. And then when we got shut down, he didn't. No, there wasn't really a war. I'll agree with that. He didn't.
That's his argument, is that he did not start any new wars.
Has Biden started any?
Well, I would argue that Biden provoked the proxy war in Ukraine. Yes. I mean, you can disagree whether he provoked it or not, but there's no question the U.S. has been deeply involved in a war with Russia in Ukraine.
I love how the argument went from, he said that's BS, that whole thing that he didn't start any new wars. Then somebody just calmly asks him, do you agree with that? He didn't start any new wars? Hasn't done the first president in 20 years? And he just goes, And then he's just like, okay, yeah, he didn't start any. I'm just talking a bunch of mess. I'm just not making sense anymore. That's just, sorry. Thanks for reeling me in there. But yeah, they just went back and forth. I will say the one thing that he said about selling to the Saudis, that little part, they didn't touch on that really. But when you see what's going on with Saudi Arabia now, pulling away in terms of using the US dollar, sadly, you kind of want to keep those guys happy. They haven't been happy under the Biden-Harris administration, and that's why they made that move. Whereas with Trump, when he does something like that, it seems terrible, but it kept them happy and it kept them in line the way that America actually needed them. That's my argument towards that. But yeah, there you go. Mark Cuban getting it handed to him. But Mark Cuban didn't always think like this, guys. Okay, TDS is slow. It's very slow. If you don't have that much exposure to Trump, you could get better, but it's very hard to do that because you're drawn to him so much when you have TDS. But this is how Mark Cuban used to think. And it's funny. I'm going to play the other clip after, but listen to what he says about Donald Trump.
Call you a Democrat. No. Look.
Too fast, of course. That's just how I listen to it. If you guys don't know.
There's different things for different reasons, right?
Would you be comfortable with a capitalist like Donald Trump being our president?
Yeah, I don't have a problem with it. I like Donald and he's smart. Like a lot of candidates and politicians, you vote for not what they say, but knowing that 99% of they say won't come true, what they'll do once they get it.
See who's going to follow through.
And do I think he's smart enough to figure that out and then just do the right thing after he's elected? Yes. And then Hillary and Bernie say, okay, tax the 1% and that'll pay for everything. Doesn't work, right? Won't work. You know, Hillary's pay for college. Her plan is ridiculous. It'll increase college costs, not reduce. You know, so they don't think them through.
You said, you know, Trump, I get it.
He's changing the tone of politics. You know, in the past, you had to be a Stepford candidate. You had to be perfect. You know, did you ever inhale? Oh no, I only inhaled. Right? Just you had to be perfect. Now Trump is the ultimate imperfect candidate, and I think the beauty of what he's doing isn't his policy or his positions, but he's making everybody else become more real. He's making them more honest. They're not as scripted, and I think that's good for politics.
You have a long history with Donald Trump.
That's my boy. Yeah. Kinda. You know, in person, he's nice. Here's what I do respect about Donald. I'm not saying vote for him, right? But there's something I do respect about him. Donald says what's on his mind, right? He's the guy that if we're sitting around talking at a bar, if we're at your birthday drinking champagne and having pink cake, he's going to say what's on his mind. So I respect the fact that he's the first politician to truly say what's on his mind, even if it's not politically correct.
You said Donald Trump, probably the best thing to happen to politics in a long, long time, you said. Would you be Donald Trump's VP? I'm just going to jump right in.
Sure, I'd be VP for either candidate.
If Hillary Clinton decides that Elizabeth Warren is the one for her on the VP ticket,
then there's a good chance I vote for Donald Trump. I like to see corporate taxes much lower. I like to see inversions from companies moving be far fewer. So yeah, so from a corporate tax perspective, and you know, I agree with him. I like what he's doing from that perspective, and we'll see what he does on the personal side. But he's obviously had an impact on the economy, so he gets credit for that. People believe in what he's doing on the tax front. They believe, and I agree on the reduction of regulation. Not all regulation, the EPA type stuff I don't agree with, but in some of it, the simplification of doing business I agree with. Reducing some of the bureaucracy and the lobbying rules. There's a lot of positives that are positives for business.
Oh man, he fought it. He fought it for so long, guys. Shout out to Patrick Bet-David back in the day interviewing Mark Cuban before the studio and all that. Look at him. Before the hair, before the studio, before the suits. Patrick Bet-David has been at it for a while. But yeah, Mark Cuban, he fought it for a long time. But if you listen to what he said, how funny is that? He said taxing the 1% doesn't work when he's talking about Hillary Clinton. But that's what Kamala Harris wants to do. And now he's looking at Kamala Harris saying, oh, this is very, very good. But just a few years ago, he's like, that doesn't work. Plan to pay for college. That's not doable. Well, that's very reminiscent of what Kamala Harris wants to do in regards to house loans. I mean, paying for college, I mean, depending on what kind of college you go to, you know, you go to a community college, you can get quite a bit of things paid for with $25,000. So it's very, very similar. You know, Hillary was saying, I'm going to pay for school. And I don't know how I'm going to pay for it. Don't worry. The billionaires, don't worry. They'll pay their fair share. Now Kamala Harris is like, don't worry. I'll get everybody a loan on a house for $25,000. And don't worry. The billionaires will pay their fair share. So for some reason, he understood that didn't work in regards to Hillary. But now with Kamala, he doesn't understand that. And then he also said he doesn't like a Stepford candidate. But then all of a sudden, now that he has Kamala Harris, who's an empty vessel, literally telling the people what they want to hear, more so even telling the people whatever is being told to her through her transmitting earrings, which, you know, no proof of that. They just look exactly like the ones that are actually transmitters where you can hear, like, you know, the earpieces. But, you know, whoever's telling her what to say, she's now like a Stepford candidate. Nothing she says is real. Nothing she says is true. If you ask her something off the cuff, she'll either ignore you and walk away, or she'll give you the worst answer possible. But all of a sudden, now Mark Cuban's for all that. And I'll end it off with this. This young man actually is questioning why Mark Cuban is going so hard for Kamala. And he's just going to talk about that for a little while.
Right? He sniffs the scams and immediately calls it out. Or so I thought. Now, take a listen to Mark Cuban today and his support for Kamala, and listen to his justification.
A lot of your business colleagues say the definition of insane is supporting Kamala Harris, yet you do. You're a smart, savvy businessman. You came from nothing to be a multi-billionaire, so You're pretty good at what you do. What do you see in her that you don't see in Donald Trump?
I think she's thorough. If you look at Donald, right, when he talks about his policies, they're very impetuous, they're impulsive, they're set to match whatever's happening at a rally. Whereas with the Harris campaign and Kamala herself, she's very, very thorough. She's very precise. Her team really vets every idea. And to me, that's important as a business person because you can trust what she says.
Now, I don't know if we're living in a bizarre world because he actually said that her policies are precise and thorough and well thought through. Are we living in an alternate universe? So that's where I ask the question, what's in it for him? What promises does he have? What assurances has he been given? I'm speculating here. I have no evidence of anything nefarious, but the way he's going so hard for Kamala makes me wonder what is really going on. Because it is insane to look in the American people's face and tell us that Kamala's campaign is thorough and well thought out and well executed. Anybody who falls for this kind of gaslighting is probably not ready for the economic firestorm that'll be unleashed on Americans if Kamala wins. Mark Cuban will not be affected by her policies. His portfolio will not see a dent. It is the American people, ordinary people like you and I, who will suffer, and we cannot let that happen. So let's get out, let's vote, and let's make America great again.
Man, that guy is great. That guy's great. It's funny to see the switch that's happened in politics. How young black men are now like liberal white women and young black men have like just switched. They've just switched roles. You know, you go up to a young liberal white lady and you're like, why Kamala Harris? She's just like, you're a piece of garbage. Get out of my face. Because I love her. That's why. And you're going up to young black men. And you're like, why Donald Trump? And they're like, allow me to explain all of the good things about Sir Donald Trump. Okay. There's so many things that he does right. The economy, my friends. I had so much money. The gas prices, my friends. I mean, it was less than half just years ago. You know, it's really odd to see the switch that's happening right now. And in regards to Mark Cuban, I don't know. I don't know what's happened. I really don't. I don't know what's going on with him. I don't really understand why he would be doing what he's doing for Kamala Harris. Hold on a second. Oh, shoot. I hit the wrong. Oh, I got this screen up. No, that's the wrong screen. Ah, man. Yeah, that's the wrong screen. Yeah, I gotta, hold on, guys. Let me just, sorry about that. I don't even know what that was. I don't know where that came from. Anyway, again, I don't know what's going on with Mark Cuban. You know, there's no proof of anything. You know, stuff with Diddy comes out, Epstein, I don't know. I'm just saying, you know, again, maybe he's just had a change of heart. He's just like, I like Donald, but now I don't, you know? And now I'm going to fight like my life is on the line for Kamala Harris to get in office. It's funny how all these celebrities are doing that. Interesting. You know who else they did that for? Hillary Clinton. Very, very interesting stuff. But anyways, rambling. Like, subscribe, turn on the notifications, helps us tremendously. And other than that, I'm out.